Jenny Chiu, who witnessed the debacle live and in person. Good morning, Jenny.
Good morning, Susanna. Thanks for waiting for me to be a little bit later in the show to not bring me on at the beginning.
Oh, gosh, I know. We've been exhausting this conversation, but you were there, Jenny. You witnessed this with your own eyes. You know, we've been talking a lot about, obviously, our disappointment with this, but from your perspective, witnessing it, what was the atmosphere like as this result kind of came to fruition for the U.S.?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly disappointing. Like you guys mentioned, I'm sure you've talked about it all morning long, but I was there and there were so many fans there. It was very positive in the sense that all of these fans were very confident. I'm telling you that I don't think they recognized that the U.S. could be out if they lost, because in talking to the different fans that were tailgating ahead of the game, they felt confident. They said, yeah, we're going to advance, no problem. We're going to win this game. And I was a little confused because I was thinking, I don't know whether you guys realize how good Uruguay is and that the chances are not really in our favor here. But the confidence level was there. There was a lot of fans out there. There was a lot of Uruguayan fans as well. I had no idea that there were so many Uruguayan fans here in the Kansas City area. But beautiful to see the support for soccer and for football in our backyards here. And as the game went on, there were different moments when you hear a lot of the crowd. For example, when Bolivia scores in the match against Panama and gets that equalizer, the entire crowd reacts because they're all getting the notifications on their phones that we all get. And all of a sudden, everyone's on their feet and they're making noise and they're cheering. And Greg Berhalter didn't have to do this because the stadium told the players right away that there was a chance.
Jenny, you were with this Greg Berhalter team early on in World Cup qualifying. You've seen the path, you've seen the growth. How did last night compare to some of those down moments early on in World Cup qualifying? Because it seemed like every time we had a CBS game, because we had all the away matches, there were some rough performances. But did you feel that this was far removed, or did you think that there's a lot of similarities in this performance, or at least the feeling at the end of the game?
I felt like the performance was solid, but it was too late, right? You're seeing this fight from the team and you're seeing them fighting for their lives. And we heard Christian Pulisic say, we have to have the best game of our lives. And then he ran back those comments after that. But I thought that a lot of the players had really strong performances. You could see that they were fighting for the crest. And that's something that we maybe haven't seen from them. In many cases, there were lots of times when you're thinking, where is the fight on this team? Where is the love of the crest, Charlie? Something that your generation, we kind of saw from them. I thought that was there last night from a lot of the players. And I was honestly kept turning to the different reporters and saying, you know what, I'm liking this. I'm liking this more than I have in many of these matches. And we talk about, you know, the Panama match, the Bolivia match, a lot of these matches, you're not seeing the quality or the connection in the passes. But at the end of the day, Charlie, we go back to what we've seen in the World Cup qualifiers, the inability to score goals, the inability to put the ball in the back of the net is what's going to end up being the problem here.
Jenny, what was the atmosphere like at the press conference with Berhalter? Because in the lead up to this, there was a lot of questions about his future directed towards him, and he kind of deflected. Obviously, he's not going to be the one to say, no, I shouldn't be the one to take this team to the next round, but it feels like every time he's at the podium, he's a man of few friends.
Yes, I would say that the majority of questions were about whether or not he thought that he should be the person to take this forward. I would say that the question that I was hoping someone would ask is, does he believe that he deserves to be the person to take this forward? I think that, you know, to a certain extent, you know, he has done well for the team. And then there comes a point when you have to find someone of a better pedigree, someone of European experience, in my opinion. The questions were aimed at whether or not, you know, he felt like he had done a good job in these 9 months in charge, and whether he deserved to continue to be the coach of this team. And there's a moment that really, for me, stood out was Paul Tenorio asking the direct question of if he was the right man to take this forward in 2026 and through it. And he just said a one-word answer, Nico. He just said, yes, and moved on. And I honestly, I felt so uncomfortable in that moment because, yeah, maybe it was a yes or no question and he answered it as such. As a reporter, you don't ask a yes or no question. But in that moment, the way that he answered the question was almost a no. You know, like the yes was so... If you're confident in that, you know, you kind of come along with absolutely, you know, I think we've done a great job. I think that, you know, the improvement that we have had and we got unlucky in the pan, whatever he wants to say, I think in the confidence level of what you say tells a lot about how you're actually feeling. And in that just simple yes, there was just, it was somber. It was heavy, if that makes any sense.
Because it's the only test that you have. There was only one test. And really, it was pass or fail. Get out of the group was all he really had to do. Because you have all the excuses in the world. We're playing Brazil, we got Colombia, we had Uruguay, and that's good. We have some positives. You failed. It's a failure. So what can you say? You failed the only test that you have before 2026.
Yes.
Charlie, you are 100% right. I know that you more than anyone really feels this with the heat under your belly. You're right. It is a failure. Without a doubt, it's a failure. We went into this tournament thinking, yes, that's the group we have. The U.S. can get out of this group. And all throughout, we were thinking, the United States national team has the pedigree to go ahead and get out of this group. Bolivia and Panama, they should beat these teams. They should be able to get out. And to be in the position where you're going into your third game, having to get a result against Uruguay is a very difficult position to be in. You shouldn't have been in that position. Obviously, circumstances came into play. But at the same time, you have to make it work. It's getting out of the group is the bare minimum for the United States national team. And the kind of players that you have now, before, there were years ago that we don't have the players. They're not at European pedigree yet. They're not playing at these top clubs. Well, they are now. So where do you point the finger? Because the players have gotten better, in my opinion, and then where do you kind of lack, I guess is the question.
Jenny, you mentioned that the vibes before the match were positive and that when they found out Bolivia had equalized, it was positive. There was a couple times where the camera cut to the audience and you could visibly see them chanting, "Fire Greg, fire Greg." Was that just that concerted group of fans? Did you hear a lot of that? And what do you think the vibes were after the match?
Alexis, I'm not watching the broadcast while I'm in there, but I think that that's definitely the sentiment around U.S. soccer fans at the moment. Just within press as well, the idea is you failed. Now what? More than anything, Alexis, I think the question that we are all kind of speculating is who would take the job ahead of the World Cup and who would be, a worthy candidate and that wants the job to take the team into the World Cup and get the best out of these players, because we're not saying we don't have quality players, right? We're not saying we have the best players in the world either, but we have quality players and we want to see better performances from them. How do we do that? Who is the person to lead that forward? And that's basically been the conversation where we haven't really nailed that down, because if you're thinking of firing Greg Berhalter or parting ways with him, you have to have someone else in line. You can't make that decision today if you don't have someone else in mind to take that job, because then you are in a very difficult position where you don't have something better or someone else that's going to take that. So I think, I'll give that question back to you guys is, do you have someone in line that's going to take that job? Because you can't fire someone if you don't have someone else, I guess.
You have all summer, and that's why you hire a sporting director like Matt Crocker to do that work, to have emergency plan A, plan B, plan C. You don't go in thinking that this could never happen. Mm-hmm. You have to be prepared for any situation given that role. So for me, we sit here and talk about mediocrity and accepting mediocrity. This is below mediocrity.
This is wow. I was thinking the same exact thing. Go. I literally said that in my mind like a minute ago.
I wasn't even paying attention.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Keep on going.
You're right. There's no question what needs to happen. Now it's just figuring out who is that guy? Who is the next person? What does that person look like? What are the credentials? Do they have to have international experience? Do they have to have won trophies? Is this more about we like their philosophy and we know that this person is going to come in with new ideas, fresh ideas, and hold everyone accountable, and no one has a position on lock? You have to earn your position every week with your club, every time you come in with the U.S. men's national team, and your performances dictate who's going to play. So for me, that's the big question for Matt Crocker in U.S. Soccer. Who's the next person? What are you looking for? Who's available? Who's not available? And the people who maybe aren't available, can you get them available?
And that doesn't necessarily need to be somebody top of the line elite, right? I'm looking at Scaloni hadn't managed at Argentina, hadn't managed a single professional game as a manager. Look at Luis de la Fuente. For the Spanish national team, he didn't have a significantly robust resume before taking charge of the Spanish national team, and he's got them playing well. We've seen progress under a manager. So we're not choosing, because that's not our job, it's Matt Crocker. Cindy Parlow-Cohn, I guess, hired Matt Crocker to make this decision and get it right.
It's safe to assume he has a list that he's always, you always have to have
They're
a
also
backup
not
list.
that far removed from interviewing a ton of candidates before they rehired
Including
Greg.
Jesse
Yeah,
Marsh.
Jesse, baby, we was joking.
Oh, let's not bring that conversation in because it's very long.
Jenny, you
That
wish
could be a
Jesse
very
would have
long
gotten hired, right?
conversation. Yes, I think Jesse Marsh should have gotten hired at the time. I think that was the wrong decision at the time. I don't think that Greg Berhalter should have been rehired. I've said that many times. But now we're in the position that we're in now. I don't think, Charlie, that we can fire or let go of Greg Berhalter at this moment if you don't have someone else.
Why not?
Because what if you don't get someone better?
You need a new manager for
What
a
if
friendly
you do
against
not
Panama?
get somebody better?
You need a new you need to have a manager in place for a friendly against Panama? Or a friendly against
That's not
New
what I'm
Zealand?
saying, is that if you have a chicken egg in your hand, but you have two in the sky, you take this one for right now until you can get the ones in the sky.
what?
You don't just throw this one to go get the
Did
two
you say
chicken eggs.
chicken egg?
Jenny, if Matt Crocker,
Did you say a chicken egg? Hold on. I'm sorry. Did you say a chicken egg in the sky and one in your hand?
Jenny, if
I don't know.
if Matt
Ignore it.
Crocker-
Ignore it. You know what I mean?
You know what? It's early.
I get it. I get what she's trying to
No,
say.
but Matt Crocker's made the decision and said, you know what? We're not going forward with Greg Berhalter. He's not going to be the manager in 2026. Then why go month after month? You can bring anyone in to be the interim. Look what B.J. Callahan did as an interim manager. So you're telling me you can't fire a manager and say, we'll wait to get the next one,
The only reason you
right?
wouldn't is because it might cost you more to hire the next one.
Saracen
Charlie.
was the assistant manager for how long before Greg got hired?
Yeah.
Charlie, I
interim
don't
head
think
coach.
you think filling this spot is easier than it really is. I think. Honestly, while we think that this is such a coveted job, I don't know. When I'm trying to rattle off the list, right? Yesterday, I'm thinking, okay, if we get rid of him, who would take this spot? It is not a long list, Charlie. That is the reality. And you have to make some concessions, right?
How do you know it's not a long list?
Because the conversations are being had. It's not like you're not talking about it, right?
No, but how do you know you
Who is
can't get
available?
certain? For instance, would you take a Mauricio Pochettino right now, who is available? Would you
Yes,
take
we're
him?
talking. But Charlie, again, do you think that everybody wants this job? Because you're coming from a place of I represented the U.S. national team and I know that everybody wants this job. It is not an easy job, considering you're hosting. Okay, yes, great, privileged, but then also understanding that U.S. Soccer has a thumb on everything. Do you think that everybody wants that? No, they want a certain level of freedom.
You also have to take into consideration, you're not taking a full 4-year cycle. You're coming in halfway, maybe even a year and a half, 18 months, and you're getting the World Cup on home soil, and then you could bounce.
It's not our jobs. It's up to U.S. Soccer, and this really does feel like a kind of a moment of reckoning for U.S. Soccer. They're going to have to figure it out. They're going to have to figure it out quick. Jenny Chiu, we appreciate you.